kind of stretching. Hey, my creative friends. Kind of stretching, getting comfortable. My name is Shannon from Shannon Studio. And I talk about creativity. We share ideas. We want to live a creative life. So we do and talk about things that will lead to a more creative life. And tonight, and I give a tip a night, or I guess it's day for you guys if you're in the States, but for me it's night. So I give a tip a day and we talk. So first off, it's been a fast 5 days in Denmark. I have loved it. It has been an adventure. It's been inspirational. It's been all those things. And I wanted to talk about how to be creative on vacation. That's what we're going to talk about. Today, we did several things. Went to the aquarium, went to a couple of churches, saw Carl Block paintings, and went to the Thorvaldsens Museum. I butchered that. Anyways, so I wanted to share some tips about how to stay creative on vacation. How to be creative, how to stay creative. So first off, you have to approach vacation totally different. You're getting away from it all. You're relaxing. You're doing things. So you're not going to do the habits that you normally do at home. That's not the point, to hold yourself on any kind of a rigid schedule in order to produce artwork. Now, there's a lot of things that go into creativity. That's a lot of what I talk about doesn't even have to do with the actual making of things. We'll get to that later on down the road, but I think there's so much more to talking about mindset and everything else to be creative before we even make the art. Vacations to me are not about the actual art making and having something tangible, but it's very creative, and it is creative intangibly. It's the intangible creativeness that vacations have always inspired me for. So you have to realize that there's that distinction. So don't hold yourself in like every day I have to paint this painting, or every day I have to. Vacations are the chance to just like let the habits go. But there's tons that you can do that are really helpful on vacation to really spark that creativity. So first off, you have to take your idea book. We talked about that in videos past. If you don't know what that is, go back to the idea book. You have to take that. And second, your portable studio. Now, I say you don't have to make art, but taking a portable studio lets you have that available if you want to. So for me, I usually go traveling with a lot of family, and I don't really have a lot of alone time or a lot of time. Like today, I told you, we went to the aquarium, 2 churches, and we went to the museum. And so it was pretty tightly packed that I didn't have time to draw. Except I could have drawn but I forgot my backpack in the car. And when I was at the museum, I had like 45 minutes to myself to be able to sit and draw if I wanted to. So I actually could have drawn, but most of the time I don't usually have time to draw. But your vacation may be different. So take your portable studio. Those are the 2 things I say take with you. Definitely all the time. You're there to recharge and get new energy and those kinds of things, but those are the 2 things that I don't think you should ever go anywhere without, being a creative person. Okay, so we're there to be inspired. Here's a quote from Wired to Create, and it says, people who enjoy high frequency and intensity of inspiration in their daily lives tend to be more open to new experiences. Openness to new experiences typically precedes inspiration. And that's openness to new experiences is what happens on vacations. You are just bombarded with new experiences. And this is what Creative Confidence book says. Travel broadens the mind, but beneath this cliche lies a deep truth. Things stand out because they're different. So we notice every detail. We learn a lot when we travel because we pay such close attention. Intensely observing the environment around us, we are trying to figure out the world that is foreign and new. So and that's true. We really are just like looking at all these new things because it's different than home. And so and that broadens our perspective. So one of the things is you're going to be inspired on your vacation, and you're going to observe. You're going to start seeing things, and you're going to make connections when you see things. One of the connections I made is that, well, first off, I'm going to back up just a little bit. You should go with some purposes on your vacation, some creative purposes. So I went with I think three purposes. One was I wanted to see Carl Bloch paintings. Two was I wanted to see about Hans Christian Andersen. And three, I had this project. So those were the two purposes and a project. So go with a projects or purposes in mind. And my project in mind was something to do with statues that I've had in the back of my mind, but I wasn't sure. So those were the things that I came here looking for on my vacation. So what I was saying is that you make connections. So I was looking at Carl Bloch things, and I was looking at Hans Christian Andersen things. You know what? I always want to say Hans Christensen Andersen just because my name is Christensen, and I stumble all the time. So anyways, so when I went to the Hans Christian Andersen's museum, I was looking at things and stuff like that, and I noticed there was a Carl Bloch painting that Carl Bloch did of Hans Christian Andersen. And I was like, oh yeah, they're both from Denmark. And then I read they both knew each other. They both wrote to each other. And, I didn't quite make that connection about how tied they were to each other until I saw the painting there. So you will make connections. Another connection I noticed is that the small towns in Utah look like Denmark, and really when you think about it, some of the people who converted to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints moved there from Europe, from these places, and built up towns and the designs of them and the brick. And it was just, I was like, oh my goodness, I never realized fully that when they traveled to America, that they traveled with their own sense of style and their own sense of what home looked like. And they brought some of their home with them when they built. And I made that connection just driving through the streets of Denmark. So you are going to make connections when you are here. So you also go with a project and or purposes. So have something in your mind that you want to do and that ties to your creativity. Okay, another thing is sometimes I do take one project that I can do. So it was something on my iPad. I'm working on my next fabric collection. So I took some of my scrap and things like that to decide composition. So I could do that in my spare time traveling or waiting. So I had that with me so I could easily do a project, because you just whip that out and you've got the pen. You don't need a lot of other things. So I try to take one project with me to do, though that's not my purpose for going. I just have that for backup. And let's see, what else? To me, you need to collect stories. To me, vacation is about collecting stories. And you don't have to go on vacation to do this, because when I'm back home and Jean and I, a gal that's in Sweden, that her husband and my husband work together, and so we have gone out to museums. She does something all the time that I realized was a really good thing. I mean, it was kind of something I did, but not very often. She does it often. She will go up to directors or things and ask about art and ask for stories. And so the experience is more rich. I mean, she gets more information. And so when we were at the Hans Christian Andersen home, the little gal that was the guide there, she started telling us stories about him. And, about he wrote The Ugly Duckling after himself, and he has a half sister. And he felt awkward and some different things. So when you are in museums or homes or places, ask people stories. Because usually they've studied up on this because they know they're going to be representing, and so they have these tidbits of knowledge that are fun to share that you're not going to get necessarily somewhere else. So collect stories from the museum guides and directors and places that you go, the people who are in charge. Then another thing is to talk to locals, talk to the local people. Ask them things. They like to share, not everybody, but plenty of them like to share ideas and share things about the place they live. And especially if you like and share your enthusiasm for their place, they like to share things. Another thing is to, when you go through a museum and you see the placards or you see little place signs along a path or something, about by a building, take pictures of those because sometimes they have stories too. And I don't have time when I'm traveling. Usually I don't have time to read everything, but if I have those with me, I go back and read them later, and then I can pick out things that might be fun. And then also I tend to buy books from, let me see, I got some books today. And I tend to buy books, just a second, I'm just going to be right back. I just wanted to show you. I tend to buy books that I wouldn't necessarily get at home. And I was real interested in the 12 apostles, and this has little stories about them. And things that you can find out about that I'm finding out about because the stories and some information's in this. Now, these books aren't very big or expensive. I got one with this, Church of Our Lady. I got Thorvaldsen. This is the guy who does the art. Got that. And then this Director's Choice one with stories about him and his art. So, collect books that you might not find in mainstream bookstores that talk about the specific place you're at. All these stories are so useful to your creative journey. It doesn't really matter what you're doing, whether you're doing writing or making art, or you can put writing in your quilts. You can do, there's just all kinds of things you can do. At the very least, you're going to share stories with other people because other people love to hear what you've learned and the things you've experienced because they haven't been there or they have been there and they connect with you. Any way you look at it, people are always asking me, so what have you done? And how is it going? And when I share the stories, it solidifies the experience for me, and it also gives a connection and kind of just an inspiration for other people as well. So collect stories, and that's not a tangible thing per se. When you're thinking, oh, I need to be creative, even when I'm on vacation, but it adds to your creativity. It inspires your creativity. So, and then the last thing, I think this is the last thing. Yes. The last thing is to collect scrap. I call it scrap. It's reference photos. Collect reference photos, especially if it's someplace you're not likely to be again. Because first off, copyright. To me, copyright's a big deal. If you're an artist, copyright's a big deal. You shouldn't take other people's work and work from it. You should have your own material. It frees you so that nobody can come back to you and say, well, they took my work and used my work, and et cetera, et cetera. So copyright, taking your own photographs, really also, besides copyright, it also gives your point of view, how you take the photograph, what you take the photographs of. And I had another thought too that I didn't write down about photographs. But anyways, it's your own vision, it's copyright, and it's not expensive. I mean, this isn't the day like in the 70s, 60s, 50s where photography was precious. I mean, I was of those days. If you took a photograph and you had 12, 24 on the camera, and then you went to go develop them, and they were, half of them were a waste. I mean, it was expensive. It was a waste. With digital, you can take thousands of photos. You can delete them later, the ones you don't want, but take the photos. Just go crazy with the photos, and let your family know you're a photo taking fool, and you will stop everywhere. That's my family. Alan just doesn't even flinch when I stop or he turns around and I'm not there. He just knows, okay, just where is she? She's taking a photo. So have that as part of your adventure. Start with taking photos out of the plane. That is just the most fun to me, when you get a sunset or a sunrise and you are in a plane and the clouds, and it's just beautiful, and use that somehow. So that's collect reference photos. Take a bunch of photos. Whoa, I think that was a lot, but I think sometimes we have a skewed idea about being creative on vacation. It's like we have to make something. And I never use vacations that way. Rarely. I mean, I might do a little thing, but rarely. It's most about absorbing the experience, about getting the stories and getting the scrap and having it tie into the creative things that I'm already working on, and the things that I am inspired to do because I've been there. And it goes down in the idea book, and it all those things. Take notes when you're places, how you feel when you're at a certain place, your observations. When I'm at these churches, I mean, today we went to this one church, and Alan and I were like, this is a small painting. Somebody could just, I'm not going to say where, but if somebody could just lift this painting. I mean, because Alan looked behind, he goes, it's just hung up there on a wire. I mean, this is a 200-year-old almost painting. It's on the wall. It's small. Somebody could just, when we walked in, nobody was around because we went early. And I mean, just like that. So that was our observation, how I think sometimes little people feel about art. So it was interesting. So that goes in the notebook. That goes in your idea book. All these things. Traveling has been such a great thing. Now, on the other side, you don't have to travel. You just have to go with new eyes to different places around you. There's plenty of places that I've lived and been that I haven't really taken advantage of the visiting and traveling. So you don't have to go to Denmark, but if you have a chance, you should certainly go. So those are my tips today, how to be creative on vacation. And we're traveling tomorrow most of the day, so I will be back tomorrow night. I'll be home, and so we will get back together, talk about creativity. But in the meantime, remember, you have a creative heartbeat, so listen for it. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye.